Madison Clarke was the shining star of Lincoln High, popular, fearless, and full of life, but one fateful night at the school's annual bonfire, everything changed. What started as a celebration ended in tragedy, leaving the town in shock and a killer hiding in plain sight. The night of the annual high school bonfire was crisp and clear, with a full moon casting pale light over the sprawling field behind Lincoln High. Students gathered around the massive flames, their laughter and chatter echoing across the quiet town. The fire crackled and popped, sending sparks into the night sky, while the smell of burning wood mixed with the faint aroma of popcorn and cider from nearby snack tables. Among the crowd moved Madison Clarke, a 16-year-old cheerleader whose bright smile and energy made her one of the most recognizable faces in the school. She laughed easily, tossing her hair back and chatting with friends. But beneath her cheerful exterior, there was a tension that not everyone noticed. As the evening wore on, the crowd began to thin. Some students wandered toward the food stands, others huddled near the fire for warmth. Madison, however, seemed restless. She drifted along the edge of the gathering, her eyes scanning the shadows that flickered across the field. At first, it seemed like typical teenage nerves, but there was a subtle unease in the way she moved, a wariness that didn't belong to a girl so used to the spotlight. Small whispers of rumors had reached her ears earlier that day, messages meant to unsettle, threats meant to intimidate, though she hadn't told anyone. Her friends noticed her distancing herself but assumed she was just taking a break from the crowd. Nobody imagined that danger was creeping closer with each passing minute. The bonfire, which had started as a symbol of community and celebration, seemed to cast longer, darker shadows as the night deepened. Madison stepped farther from the warmth of the flames, following a narrow path lined with fallen leaves and the occasional stump. The laughter from behind grew distant, fading into murmurs carried on the wind. Minutes passed, and her absence began to stir concern. Friends called out, expecting her to appear with a smile, but only the rustling of leaves answered them. The field, once alive with energy, now seemed vast and empty. The flames of the bonfire danced in the distance, mocking and indifferent. There was no sign of anyone else nearby. In that moment, the first thread of panic began to weave through the crowd. The night had shifted from carefree celebration to something heavy, ominous, and unknown. Madison Clarke had walked into the darkness alone, and nobody realized that the events of this night would leave a permanent scar on the town, a story that would haunt every corner of Lincoln High for years to come. The panic at the bonfire grew as Madison failed to return. Her friends and classmates combed the field, their flashlights cutting through the darkness in frantic arcs. Shouts echoed across the open space, but only the rustle of leaves and the distant crackle of the fire answered them. It wasn't long before someone noticed a trail small, almost insignificant items scattered across the ground, a cheerleading ribbon caught in the grass, a loose shoelace, a single glove lying near the tree line. Each object seemed to mark the path Madison had taken, a breadcrumb trail leading away from safety and toward the unknown. The police arrived quickly, sirens slicing through the night, bringing a sense of urgency and authority. Officers spread out in teams, following the trail into the woods that bordered the school. The trees stood tall and dense, their branches intertwining to create a dark canopy that blocked the moonlight. Every step deeper into the forest amplified the tension. The sound of snapping twigs and rustling leaves made hearts race. Then, near a shallow creek hidden beneath overgrown brush, they found her. Madison Clarke lay in a small clearing, her body still, the vibrant life that had defined her snuffed out. Panic turned to horror as officers confirmed the unthinkable. She was gone. There were no witnesses, no weapon left behind, and no immediate clue to point to the person responsible. The scene was eerily silent, broken only by the occasional gurgle of the creek and the distant crackle of the dying bonfire. It was clear this was not an accident, not a tragic misstep in the dark. Someone had sought her out and ended her life with intent. The detectives began piecing together the night, questioning students and scanning the surrounding area for evidence. It quickly became clear that Madison had been alone for at least 15 minutes before she was discovered missing. Security cameras in the vicinity captured vague shadows moving among the trees, but nothing identifiable. The scattered items along the trail suggested she had tried to escape or had been led away, each step a desperate attempt to avoid whatever was coming. Fear gripped the town. The bonfire, meant to bring friends together and celebrate the season, now seemed sinister, a place where innocence had been destroyed. Students whispered about eyes watching from the shadows, about someone who could move unseen among them. Parents demanded answers, while the police faced the impossible task of untangling a mystery hidden in darkness. Madison Clarke's life had ended that night, but the search for her killer had only just begun. Every step forward uncovered more questions, more tension, and a growing sense that the danger was far from over. Rumors about Madison's death spread through the school like wildfire, twisting reality and fear together. Students whispered in hallways, exchanging fragments of what they thought they knew. Some claimed she had been receiving threatening messages in the weeks leading up to the bonfire, notes left on lockers, cryptic texts from anonymous accounts, and strange posts on social media that vanished almost as quickly as they appeared. Though no one could trace the source, the warnings seemed eerily specific, as if someone had been watching her closely, waiting for the right moment. Authorities focused on the students who had attended the bonfire, questioning dozens for any hint of suspicious behavior. Every friend, every acquaintance, every rival was a potential suspect. They discovered that tensions within the cheerleading squad had been mounting for months. Competition for leadership positions, jealousy over attention from peers, and whispered rumors about personal secrets created a tangled web of motives. Even among those closest to Madison, there were hidden rivalries that had gone unnoticed by adults and classmates alike. Investigators also uncovered a more disturbing possibility. Madison had recently discovered a secret, something significant enough that it could have motivated someone to silence her. The details remained vague, but the implication was clear. The threat had not come from a stranger in the woods that night, but from someone she knew, someone who walked among the students, smiled in classrooms, and pretended nothing was wrong. The more the detectives dug, the more they realized that almost everyone had something to hide. And the challenge was figuring out who could turn secrecy into deadly action. As the days passed, the fear in the school grew. Students were wary of being alone, glancing over their shoulders even in broad daylight. Parents forbade their children from staying late after school, and every event, even mundane ones like football practice or club meetings, carried a sense of unease. Madison's friends, heartbroken and confused, struggled to reconcile the girl they knew with the threats she had apparently been receiving. Their memories of laughter and camaraderie clashed with the shadow of danger that had been quietly creeping closer all along. The investigation revealed another chilling detail. Someone had manipulated evidence to make the crime appear more mysterious. Tracks were wiped, objects moved, and anything that might have hinted at the perpetrator's identity had been carefully concealed. It became clear that the killer had not acted impulsively but had planned the night with precision. Madison's death was not a moment of chance, it was the result of calculated malice. Every layer of the mystery only deepened the horror, leaving the town questioning not just who had done this, but how well they really knew the people around them. Weeks passed, and the town's anxiety deepened. Lincoln High felt different, almost haunted. Students avoided empty hallways and dark corners, and the shadow of Madison's death lingered over every classroom. Parents demanded answers, while the police worked tirelessly, following every lead, no matter how small. The case had gone cold for a moment, with few clues pointing to the perpetrator. But then, an unexpected breakthrough emerged from the most ordinary place, a convenience store on the edge of town. Security camera footage from the night of the bonfire showed more than anyone had anticipated. A figure had been lurking near the school grounds before the fire even began. The person moved cautiously, blending into the crowd as if observing Madison and waiting for the perfect moment. At first, the images were blurry, the figure indistinct. But after careful enhancement and analysis, detectives noticed subtle details: a distinctive jacket, the way they walked, the manner in which they avoided the main crowd. Every movement seemed deliberate, calculated, and chillingly confident. As investigators reviewed the footage, a horrifying realization settled over them. The killer was not a stranger. They were someone Madison knew, someone who had been among the students at the bonfire, smiling and mingling while plotting her death. The betrayal was unimaginable, a friend or acquaintance hiding in plain sight, their intentions masked by the night's festivities. Further evidence surfaced soon after, hidden in a place no one had thought to check. Underneath a set of bleachers near the school gym, police found a small, bloodied object carefully concealed. It was enough to link the crime to a specific individual. Every detail began to align: the threatening messages, the rivalries within the cheerleading squad, and the careful orchestration of the night itself. What had seemed like random terror now revealed a horrifying pattern. Madison had been targeted, stalked, and ultimately cornered in a place she had once considered safe. The town was shaken to its core. The bonfire, once a symbol of fun and community, now felt sinister, almost malevolent. Students whispered about how someone they trusted could harbor such darkness. Parents struggled to comprehend that the killer had been hiding in plain sight, walking among their children, attending classes, and laughing at the same events that Madison had once enjoyed. Every familiar face was suddenly suspect, and every smile carried a shadow. The investigation, which had once seemed stalled, now surged forward, revealing a terrifying truth. The threat had never been unknown, it had simply been invisible until that fateful footage illuminated the dark, hidden corners of the night. The arrest sent shockwaves through Lincoln High and the surrounding town. The person responsible for Madison's death was someone no one had suspected, a fellow student who had laughed, studied, and socialized alongside her, hiding a darkness beneath a familiar smile. The revelation left friends and classmates in disbelief, struggling to reconcile the image of a peer they trusted with the violent act they had committed. The betrayal cut deeper than grief alone. It was a harsh reminder that danger could lurk in the most ordinary places, hidden behind faces that seemed safe. During questioning, the killer confessed, revealing a mixture of jealousy, obsession, and fear. Madison had discovered a secret, one that could have destroyed the perpetrator's reputation and social standing. In a moment of desperation, carefully planned and executed, they had cornered her during the bonfire, taking her life to ensure the secret remained hidden. Every detail of the night, the scattered items, the path through the woods, the avoidance of witnesses was calculated. This was not a crime of passion, but of cold, deliberate intent. The trial that followed gripped the community. Courtrooms were filled with friends, family, and curious onlookers, all trying to understand how a teenager so full of life could be killed by someone she knew. Evidence was laid bare, from security footage to the threatening messages Madison had received, painting a portrait of manipulation and premeditation. Witnesses testified, slowly piecing together the events that led to the tragedy, while forensic experts detailed the evidence that had ultimately led to the killer's capture. Families struggled to move forward, haunted by the memory of that night. Students returned to school, wary and anxious, aware that the person responsible for the horror had walked among them. The bonfire, once a symbol of fun and community, was permanently tainted in the collective memory. Every year, as autumn approached and the first leaves fell, the town remembered Madison Clarke not for the terror of her final night, but for the life she had led and the friendship she had shared. In the aftermath, the town learned a chilling lesson. Appearances can be deceiving, and even familiar faces can hide secrets dangerous enough to destroy lives. Justice had been served, but the scars remained. Madison's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder that darkness can exist where it is least expected, and that the memory of a vibrant teenager lost too soon can linger far longer than anyone anticipates. The town would never forget the night. A celebration turned into tragedy, and the girl who had been taken from them too early,